Hey beautiful soul, this is the Menopause Coach Podcast with me, your host, as always, Adele Johnston, the Menopause Coach and Educator, International Menopause Support Coach Certification founder, and your psychology master for today. I'm your mentor for the next 20 minutes or so, and together, you and I, we're going to make women's health and menopause mainstream. Now, brain fog is one of the most commonly reported symptoms in perimenopause and menopause, and yet so many of us misunderstand it. Okay, in this episode, and it's a really important one because I am getting so many questions about this in one form or another, we're going to explore the difference between hormonal cognitive shifts and psychological burnout. Okay, coming at this from a psychology lens, but also evidence-based and factual, always. Okay, and we're going to walk you through what we know about estrogen's role in the brain, really important, how stress impacts executive function, and what recent neuroimaging research is telling us about grey and white matter changes in your brain during menopause and that transition. So this isn't about scare stories or oversimplified narratives. I am here today to bring you the evidence, to look at the understanding, and to give you a really good what is happening inside my brain and my body during menopause information download so that we can stop the fear around all of this, okay? And understand that menopause in itself is not anything to do with, there's no failure in that, but also there is no need to fear it, okay? So if you've ever walked into a room, which I know many of you will have, I am with you on this, and forgotten why you're there, then you're in the right place, okay? We're going to talk about this. If you've ever opened a laptop or you've went to start something on your phone, you've opened up an app and then you find yourself thinking, oh, like, why am I here? What was I doing? Who am I? Yeah? And we laugh about it, and that is absolutely fine to make lightheartedness about these things. But if you found yourself mid-sentence really searching for words or really looking for names of people that you're just like, I know them and I can't figure it out, then today we're going to talk about this, and we're going to look at it from a perspective of brain fog, okay? The deeper question around that, what it is and why it happens. But also, I want to have you really thinking about, is this actually menopause, or could it be that you are so cognitively exhausted, and very often it's both. So we're going to look at this through a very beautiful lens, yeah, always with the evidence. So let's start with what brain fog actually is. Yeah, get clear on that so that we can then move on to the next part of the discussion. Maybe if I start with what it's not actually. It's not a medical condition or diagnosis. I don't want you to think that this is something where the brain is in a diseased state. Okay, it's actually a cluster of symptoms, plural. Brain fog is not just one thing. It's a cluster of different symptoms that come together, and we give it this umbrella term of brain fog so that we have like a name to assign to it. So many people will call it many different things, but everyone knows when we talk about brain fog, roughly what it means. Yeah, it's where we struggle finding words, struggle finding names. We have a bit of, let's just say, like, we're less sharp. Yeah, our mind is just not firing on all cylinders. Our memory, our working memory changes. We're maybe a bit slower at processing things, and that can be through conversations. It might be that you notice it through the work that you are doing. If you're in a corporate role and you recognize that actually you're just not as sharp anymore. And I fully get that, because that was me. And it is still me at times. Yeah, I make no apologies for it. I just send so much love to my brain because it is going through changes that we just cannot see. And if we could see them, well, I think we would then be a little bit more self-compassionate and compassionate to other people. We have mental fatigue. Yeah, this is a big one. I don't know about you, but it's one of the things, one of the symptoms of brain fog that can have such a massive impact on everything in your life, not just the word finding and the way finding, yeah, when we find ourselves going into a room and forgetting why we're there. We can also have a bit of decrease in our concentration, in our motivation, and in some of our abilities, where you maybe could multitask and you were holding down so many different things in one go. You know, all the tabs are open on your laptop and you're working between different things at the same time. Whereas now you're like, wow, like I could never work like that again. I have to just focus on one thing and then move on to the next. So we're going to talk about all of this. And here's why it's so important. It doesn't automatically mean that any of the things I've mentioned right now equals you having cognitive decline. And people will talk about this a lot. And when we think of the two words, cognitive, cognition, brain, decline, changing, decreasing, getting worse, we're kind of a bit like, oh, am I potentially at the early onset signs of Alzheimer's, dementia, or any other brain degenerative disease? And I want to just settle your nervous system, especially if you're someone listening to this right now and you are vastly struggling with health anxiety. Yeah, part of the ongoing symptoms that we can face, and it can come out of nowhere and absolutely kick the ass of you. That health anxiety can show up and we are not in control of it. If you have experienced health anxiety, you know what I mean when I share this with you. It is not fun. Holy hell, is it not fun? And equally, it's not just something we can just decide to switch off and it goes away. So I want to just reassure you that actually when we talk about things like brain fog, we're not directly talking about your brain is failing you. Okay. In fact, most research is showing us right now that in healthy women, long-term cognitive decline is not even a thing. It's not a consequence, and it's certainly not inevitable for menopause. So that is a real big thing. And we are getting a lot more research in this space, which is exciting to know. So let's look at what's absolutely happening inside the brain during menopause, because we talk a lot in these episodes and you have been with me for many episodes now. Okay, we're fast approaching our 200th episode, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you. Thank you for being here with me. Now that we are bringing you the video and the audio to it, I hope we'll be able to see more of each other, because this is an important space for me. I want to be able to come here and share all of this information with you in a really trusting and authentic way. Estrogen in itself is not just, and use that word, bold, capital letters. Estrogen is not just your female reproductive hormone. It is so powerful and responsible for hundreds of functions around your beautiful body. And of course, it is the number one hormone that is driving a lot of these functions in the body as females, but it's also inevitably for us, of course, the number one hormone that we lose in perimenopause. In particular, a form of estrogen called estradiol. And as estrogen, plural, is starting to decline, predominantly losing our estradiol element of it, we will start to find that we are potentially, because not all women will, experience these onset of symptoms. And one of the big symptoms that we are talking about and focusing on today is brain fog and the changes that we feel in our cognition. Estrogen in itself is so powerful in multiple ways, but it is neuroprotective and it is neuroactive. We know that neuro is the brain. Think of it like that. It is protective for the brain and it is responsible and supportive for the brain. So neuroactive. And estrogen receptors, I like to explain it this way. Whenever I'm doing any type of education on estrogen receptors in the body, I would love for you to visualize. Do you know the little Pac-Man? Yeah. I'm so glad that we have video for this now. Pac-Man going round the body, eating up all this beautiful estradiol, and it's like, yes, it needs that. So it's going round the body, into the brain, round the brain. The brain receptors are like, yes, eating up all of the beautiful estradiol, and it's getting what it needs. Now, as the estrogen receptors are still present, but during menopause, we are having such a vast reduction in our estrogen, estradiol in particular hormone through the brain, then this is where we have impacts, okay? I want you to remember that the brain is made up of really powerful regions. We've got the hippocampus. Now, this is primarily involved in memory, okay? So where we have we're talking about brain fog today, but where we have impacts to our memory, the hippocampus is kind of in charge of that. If you think about it, it's the hippocampus's role to pull our short-term and long-term memory. The prefrontal cortex is your CEO. This is your executive of your entire self, but this is what helps you with focus, with planning, with timekeeping and organization. It's the open up many tabs and be able to spin all the plates type of part of the brain. Okay, so the prefrontal cortex. And then we have the amygdala. And the amygdala is probably, for many of us, one of the ones that we're like, okay, like when I explain this, you're going to just be like, yeah, I get that. This part of the brain is responsible for your emotional processing. So where those moments of rage and anger and outbursts come out of nowhere, or you're crying at adverts that you're like, why am I even crying at this? Yeah, all of the ups and downs and the in-betweens. The amygdala is responsible for that part. So it's not just thinking of the brain as one organ, as one part of you. There are sections and areas within it that are responsible for different parts of who you are and what you do. So if we think of that, when estrogen then is supportive of those, of course the opposite can then start to occur. And when those estrogen receptors are going around the brain and not getting what they need, they're not being fed. So then our memory is impacted, our ability to emotionally process and regulate is impacted. And we have all of these different things happening where all of a sudden we're overwhelmed. Yeah, we're so overwhelmed. We're like, why? Like, I used to be able to do this, or I used to be able to do more than this, and now I can't even do that one thing. It's overwhelming me, and I just want to shut down and do nothing. Full permission to take time for you if that is happening. Just FYI. Now, during perimenopause, that stage in between, yeah, the premenopause to perimenopause, and then we effectively have postmenopause after, but that middle stage of menopause in perimenopause itself, estrogen isn't just declining, okay? It doesn't just go down in a straight line. It is fluctuating. So we have days, weeks, months where estrogen is ample and we feel quite well. And we have other parts where we do not feel quite well, okay? And everything again in between. So as the brain is impacted by those fluctuations, it's not in love with it. It's not enjoying it because it's not getting what it's needing to thrive. Yeah. My PT said to me the other day when I was training, it's just reminded me with that word, honestly, there's my brain reacting and pulling out my memory, right? But he'd said, you're fine. You've survived it, right? And I was like, Scott, this is not about just surviving. It's about thriving. Yeah. And it reminds us that we don't have to just survive in these situations. We get to want to thrive, and we are allowed to be happy, and we are allowed to thrive during these times. And I'll promise you that when you feel like you have knowledge, when you feel like you have true understanding of something that truly helps you step into your empowered action, that is where you thrive. So as menopause, perimenopause in particular, and estrogen are having this fluctuation journey, and the brain is like, I don't love this, I'm not feeling great with this. We actually have neuroimaging studies, which fascinate the life out of me. Dr. Lisa Mosconi and her team of colleagues in America have been really spearheading and trailblazing their way through a lot of brain scans. And they have shown measurable changes in the brain structure and its function during menopause, which is, it's fascinating, but also it's like, why are we only just finding this out now? Like, we must have known for centuries that the brain was being changed during menopause. How are we only just finding this out now? But that aside, we are, and that's the positive spin on this, is that we are now a lot more knowledgeable about it. And one of the recent papers that we've had has shown that we have temporary reduction in what is called grey matter volume. Okay, I'll explain in a second. Only in certain parts of the brain. And in particular, Dr. Lisa Mosconi and her team's research has shown us that when we scan brains of premenopausal women, and then we follow the brain scans through perimenopause and into postmenopause, we see vast changes in the energy control of the brain, okay? Alterations in the brain's glucose metabolism and ability too. Now, remembering glucose is the brain's main fuel source. So as we are navigating through menopause, our brain is navigating a huge change and it drops. You can physically see, if you search over any search function online for Dr. Lisa Mosconi brain scans, you will see exactly what I'm talking about. And if you look at the change between premenopause, perimenopause, and then into postmenopause, the exciting thing is showing us that actually, whilst grey matter declines and we see changes in the brain in its glucose ability, to draw and to process and to manage the energy requirements, it actually starts to repair itself. Yeah, not back to where it was, but it starts to build new neural pathways and synapse connections. And as part of that, we see a change to the white matter. Yeah, so grey and white matter. And this is really fascinating, but also really encouraging to know that actually it's so intriguing that the body repairs itself, including the brain, during these vast changes. And they do stabilise out a bit more postmenopausal, which is why you will hear a lot of women say things like, I'm through menopause now and I feel so much better in myself. That isn't untrue, because you're no longer experiencing all of these fluctuations in hormones, and you're maybe sleeping a little bit better now, so you're getting more rest. Yeah, never underestimate the power of rest, honestly. So we are very early in stages of brain scans and checking the cognitive change in menopause, but the research that we are getting coming out from this, both from a psychology perspective, but also from physically seeing these PET scans and these images and MRIs of the brain, is that it's not neurodegeneration that we are witnessing. Okay, it does adapt and change. So that is really important. The brain is recalibrating itself when our hormones start to then become a little bit more, I'm going to use the word stabilized at points, because I don't want to use the word balanced. And this is a kind of side note from this. The body in itself can never balance your hormones, okay? They're constantly changing. They're constantly fluctuating anyway, regardless of whether you're pre, peri, or postmenopause. The main difference is in perimenopause, your fluctuations are just like, they're a loaded gun. The safety is off, and it's literally like duck and cover, because we do not know from one day to the next how your hormones are going to react and respond to your daily life. So there's no blueprint. It's not like I can say that on day 12 this will happen, on day 30 this will happen. We don't know. But what we do know is that as your body starts to adapt and change, and you start to bottom out your hormones in postmenopause, not without its risks obviously to health and to happiness, then the grey matter, which houses a lot of your neurological cells, they can temporarily shift. So it doesn't mean that they're cut off, they die out and they're gone. What we're then seeing through a lot of this discussion, the observations and the trials and studies that we've got coming through, is white matter. And this is the most important part that I want to share with you right now. This is the part that supports communication pathways. Okay, when the body is starting to repair and recover these connections and these synapses, then this is where white matter is coming into it. And it connects parts of the brain regions together. Okay, so the part that really excites us in all of this is knowing that neuroplasticity doesn't disappear in perimenopause or postmenopause. Yeah, the brain adapts, but it needs a little bit of time. Okay, it's almost like it's trying to get all of this estrogen into the estrogen receptors, and the estrogen just isn't there any longer. So when women say things like, I feel really vacant, or I'm confused, or I've got just a fuzzy brain, or like I don't even feel like me anymore. Yeah, it's very much describing this brain in a bit of a recalibration state where white and grey matter are changing. The grey matter is decreasing and cutting off and switching off. But then the white matter is reconnecting new communication pathways between those regions of the brain. So it's relearning what it needs. But it's not without its complexities for us, and what we're then experiencing in our physical body as women, also in our emotional state, and the psychology of self can be so discombobulating, favorite word of mine, and just really difficult. a lot of times can be really difficult. So I mentioned at the start of this episode, where do we then associate what burnout? You know, we have a lot of conversations around burnout inside different spaces that I am in right now. I've started to look at this in a bit of a helicopter view. So rather than it being, you know, burnout is when we are just so exhausted and we're run down, I've taken a real big jump out of it. Like I went up in my helicopter and I've had a look down to go, what does this actually mean? What's the bigger picture in all of this? And I started to come up with this whole realization that actually from a psychological perspective, I'm always looking at it from that perspective now, that menopause and midlife, where I am, a midlife woman in menopause, is one of the highest cognitive load periods ever in a woman's lifespan. Yeah, ever. The brain is having to adapt in such a fashion that we just are like, holy hell, what the F is going on? Okay, and when we talk about this, we're looking at it from women in their typically late 30s, 40s. You are probably running a business at that point. Yeah, you might have a family. You may have, if you're not running a business, you may have a senior leadership role in your career. If you're like me, you're supporting teenagers. If you're like friends of mine, you're supporting toddlers and primary school age children. Yeah. But it also, if you're like some of my clients, you may not have kids, but you may be caring for your aging, ill or elderly parents. If like me, you're navigating grief, on top of all of these things, and we're losing people, grandparents and relatives, and you know, I lost my dad in 2024 very unexpectedly. We've got all of these additional cognitive load elements to what we're experiencing. And I haven't even touched upon the fact that we're also navigating a huge hormonal, psychological, physiological, it's a biopsychosocial change that we go through in menopause. We're navigating this. Our body, our mind, our heart, our soul is going through such a change. Now, at that point, we're holding all of these emotional labors, on our shoulders, in our heart, in our mind, and it's just a lot. So it is one of the, if not arguably the biggest times in our life that we are navigating this and experiencing so much on top of it. So the cognitive load theory tells us that working memory, it's so much more challenged in menopause, has limited bandwidth. We don't have an infinite supply of these like memory strands that are just like, yes, and another one, and another one, and another one. I want you to think of this like when you are working from your laptop and you're opening up all these multiple tabs. Eventually, this happens to me very regularly. I very much overwork my laptop. Very grateful for it. But eventually you get the wheel of death, right? You know the one I'm meaning. The colourful spinning wheel. And the laptop's literally saying, I have cognitive overload. I can't do this anymore. Give me a minute. Actually, we're going to have to shut some tabs. Or we might have to restart. I want you to visualize it in this because we can put it into context when we think of it like this. So you can only hold so much. Only have so many open tabs before chronic stress elevates cortisol levels and they start to spike, or they stay so high for you that they're never coming down. So chronic levels, that's never a good thing, right? If we've got persistently high cortisol, and I just want to reframe a little bit on this because cortisol is not an enemy, okay? You need it. If you didn't have cortisol, you wouldn't survive. But too much of a thing is not good, all right? Sometimes, right? So I want you to think of this as you may have sleep issues when cortisol is not in a, let's say, optimal state. You may have emotional dysregulation, and we're already dealing with that in menopause. And you may have a bit of attention span, disorganized chaos going on. So burnout in itself, when we talk about it, is really difficult for us to say it's this or that, because actually a lot of the signs and symptoms are mimicking what menopause will display. And menopause can mimic a lot of what burnout will display. It absolutely impairs your executive function. It absolutely gives you impacts to how you sleep and how you feel and how you navigate your day. And it impacts on your nervous system. And I want you to really consider that the ability to define it and say, well, yes, that's menopause or yes, that's burnout is very difficult. Okay? So where there's a little bit of a nuance to all of this, is where we think about how stress amplifies the strain on the body. Okay? Estrogen's already lowering, your brain's already struggling, and then stress and chronic stress is starting to really overload that cup. Yeah? And we just are feeling the intensifying nature of a whole host of things all at once. The sleep disruption, the energy balance that we're just like, I don't feel very balanced. I don't feel energized. These are also common in perimenopause. Okay. And then your brain is struggling to do what it needs to do. Okay. To clear out its system. You're not able to do that. So if you're not sleeping, you're potentially over caffeinating, you're having a lot of refined sugars because your brain is like, oh, I need glucose. I want glucose because I'm tired and I'm not functioning. And all of a sudden you're like, gosh, you're in this vicious cycle of more coffee, or caffeinated drinks. So your brain will feel a little bit more, or a little bit lacking, a little bit less, slower, It's not that you've done anything wrong. You've not created this. Your body is navigating this biological and this psychological load and responding to it. So part of all of that is looking at how we support ourselves. Because as midlife women, we're not cognitively failing. We're not. We are adapting. And as part of that, we have to just give ourselves some grace and compassion and relearn a little bit about what we are able to then do. Maybe you can't have 20 million tabs open all at once anymore. Maybe you can have 5 and you start there. Or maybe it's just 1 and you start there. Okay? So we have so much research. I want to just settle your nervous system a bit with this. We have so much research that supports that menopause does not equal the inevitable cognitive decline. Okay? But what we do see is that there is a bit of stress vulnerability, there is cognitive load, there's a lot of stress response that can happen as the brain is starting to restructure itself during this transitional time. And we have to allow for the brain to do that. So here are some things that are going to help you to help your brain. And if you help your brain will help you. It's a win-win situation. Number 1, resistance training. I want to invite you and almost prescribe you. I'm going to way above and beyond what I should with this, but prescribing you 2 to 3 resistance training movement sessions a week. I mean that. It is vital for more than what you realize and more than what you know, but this is going to help your brain. This is going to help your muscles. It's going to help your skeletal mass. It's going to help your mental health, your heart. It is beautiful. So resistance training 2 to 3 times a week, 2 minimum, never below. You're going to support your cardiovascular health, as I said, doing that, but also I want you to consider steps for health every day. This is going to really support your brain more than you know, even if it's just 10 minutes in fresh air. You're going to make sure that you are bringing in omega-3 fatty acids. And if you're not being able to get that in through food, then please supplement with it with a really respectable supplemented form. Okay, it really helps your neurological membrane, no end. So it's a yes, please, make sure you're having that. And I want you to consider things like vitamin D with K2. And a further thing, magnesium. For many, there's many different forms of it. I favor personally, for me and for many of my clients, a glycinate form because it's soft on the tummy. So those are supplement forms. These are also things that you can do yourself, some nutritional guidance around that as well. One of the other things to consider, and this is something again that is always in your gift to decide for yourself, but HRT or hormone replacement therapy, from my own personal perspective, but also from a professional perspective, it is one of the things that when I done my research around what was happening to me, I made the decision that HRT was always going to be part of my own pathway. And that is a disclaimer I make on this episode today as well, at this part and this segment in the episode. But by no means am I going to tell you that you have to do the same. It is your body, it is your brain. You get to decide, you get to choose, but always do it from a place of expert understanding. And you are an expert in your own body. Okay, no one else is. You are the only expert that can ever exist for your own body, no one else. So please take that on board. From a psychological perspective and a standpoint on this now, I want you to really see that when your nervous system is more regulated, you are going to feel more in balance with yourself. And we know that there is so much change that happens as we've covered some of the things today. One of the biggest tools you can keep in your toolbox is breathing regulation. Okay, if you can regulate your breathing and any time, the inhale and the exhale, you're going to shift what is called your autonomic balance. Support yourself. Okay, it's all you need to know. When you're breathing in a fashion that is regulating your autonomic system, you are really going to help yourself. And if you struggle for breathing, I have a 12-minute breath work that you can download that is completely free. It's in the show notes, so you can go and enjoy that. Okay, you don't need to be doing things that are complicated and costing you lots and lots and lots of money to do through supplement stacks. You can consider that you even just taking a moment to do that 12-minute breath each night is going to support you. Okay, so you can go ahead and download that if that feels good. So if anything, this is your calling, okay? Midlife and menopause is your invitation to really get to know where you are, where your body is, and what you need in these moments. Because we are adapting, we're evolving, we're changing, and it's going to happen whether you're ready for it or not. So I hope that through these episodes, you're able to give yourself a little bit of understanding, taking away what you need to know for you, reduce that unnecessary stress load, protect yourself and be educated in doing it, and regulate your nervous system through this whole process. Okay, there's going to be times where you will not feel in control, and hopefully you can recall and remind yourself of these situations. So this is important. For many of us, this is the beginning of cognitive maturity for us. Yeah, wisdom, all of the things that are layered into it. But it's an opportunity for you to greatly expand and evolve. And I just hope that these episodes help you do that. So if this has resonated with you, then please do go share it with at least one other woman in your life. It's so important that what we learn, we share. When we do that, we multiply the ripple effect. If you go tell one person and that one person goes and tells another, and we just have that ripple effect. If you tell two people and they go tell two people, it's the absolute ripple effect that this has in our collective for the women around us that need to hear what we have to share. So please do go share this episode. Make sure you are subscribed, because it means you will get all of our notifications. We will be bringing you so many amazing episodes in the future alongside other little mini bits just on the YouTube channel that we have. So please do, if you have enjoyed listening to this and you would rather watch what we are doing, you can of course come and check us out on YouTube. Just search for Adele Johnston or search for the Menopause Coach Podcast and it will come up for you. And if you are a practitioner of any kind listening to this in women's health, you are a PT or a health coach or anyone that is supporting women, then this is why we have to approach menopause through the lens of yes, hormones, but also through that psychology lens of how we support women with understanding what is happening. And I have so much more for this on all of these areas for you. So if you are in the women's health and menopause space and you are working with clients in this space, then please do make sure we are connected. I have so much available to you through resources and of course our formalized Menopause Support Coach Certification, fully certified, fully accredited, and British Menopause Society doctor endorsed. So of course it goes without saying, yeah, the views are expressed are my own. This is not meant to replace any medical advice for you. So please make sure if you do need medical support, you contact your own medical team. None of the information here is designed to overtake that. So please do act with full love and respect for yourself and involve your own medical team. Until next time, stay well, stay cognitively as sharp as you can, and I will see you on our next episode.